Welcome, friends, to Anything is Possible. This is Tamara, and I'd like to start by saying this was not the program I planned on recording this week at all. I had a couple of little mishaps, and 2 days in a row, totally different circumstances, I managed to fall on my face. Once on the right side, which was not nearly as bad. My foot got caught in a hole in the street in front of my house, which is, not uncommon in this area to get tripped in the street. But I was standing still talking to someone, and my foot got caught in a hole, and I went to move, and I couldn't get my foot out of the hole, and I fell. And the second time, I was getting up to go to bed at night, and I have blankets on my couch to protect it from my animals because it's a rental house and it's, not my furniture. And the blanket had kind of slid down onto the floor and it got wrapped around my foot. And I got up to walk over and put my glass on the kitchen sink, and unfortunately the blanket caught me by the foot and I fell flat on my face. And here the floors are hard tile, and I went crashing to the ground, and I really wrecked up my left shoulder and landed on my left forehead side of my head, on the forehead. So I went to bed, actually. I posted on Facebook to my friends, and we all stayed up and chatted a little while just to make sure I wasn't going to pass out. But I decided to just go ahead and go to bed. And the next morning, my arm was really hurting, and I knew I wasn't in good shape with my head. So I managed to drive myself to the local hospital, which is San Antonio Hospital. It's quite new here at Lake Chapala, and the experience was really quite interesting. When I walked in at the reception desk, I told them that I had fallen and hit my head really hard the night before and really wrecked up my shoulder. And I'm so used to the U.S. where you would walk into the emergency room and they would, first off, the waiting room would be full of people, sick people, injured people, you name it. Well, I walked in and there was one other woman who looked like she had hurt something. And we waited, and, I talked to the guy at admissions, and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I didn't really expect there to be a menu, because in the United States, you tell them what happened and they get you in when they can, which could be, a couple hour wait, and they run you through all kinds of expensive tests and scans and this and that and the other thing, and, give you all kinds of expensive treatments. And here it was apparently, I think it was the question was, and I couldn't quite understand, but I think it was, do you want to be admitted to the hospital or do you want a consultation? And I said, well, I just need to see a doctor. So that was fine. I sat down, and in a few minutes a nurse came out and had me sit in a chair on the side and took my vitals. And then within 10 minutes I went in and I went into a private room, and a doctor came in, and she wanted to know what was wrong, and she got up and felt my arm to see where it was sore, and she goes, oh, I don't like that, so we need to do an x-ray. And she didn't seem too concerned about my head at that time, so I went in, had the x-ray, and came back out, and within minutes it was up on her monitor, and she looked at it and consulted with some information on her cell phone, actually, which is really interesting. And then she goes, I want to talk to a traumatologist. I'll be back. So she got up and went and talked to a traumatologist and came back. And she said, well, there is no broken bones at all. But she goes, what it is you strained the muscle pretty bad, I guess. I mean, you can't see that in an x-ray, but by feeling me, she could tell where the soreness was. It was, I don't know if I tore the muscle or pulled it or what, but anyway. And so she wrote me out a prescription for meloxicam and a muscle relaxer, which also I had my neck muscles and shoulder muscles had kind of gone into spasm because of just hitting my head so hard. It caused the neck and shoulder muscles to spasm. So she gave me, it was a combined medicine that would help me feel better and relax the muscles in my neck and shoulders. And I said, well, what about my cabeza, my head? And she says, well, these pills will help you feel better, And she looked at my head a little bit and didn't seem alarmed at all. And so apparently she didn't feel it was a major concussion. In retrospect, after all the symptoms that I had following that for 2 or 3 days, I do feel that I had a minor concussion because I had these sort of spasmodic headaches and was very, very fatigued and slept a lot for the next 2 days for sure. By the 3rd day, I started feeling better. But, it's basically when you hit your forehead really hard like that, your brain kind of gets thrown back and slammed against the back of your skull. And when it's that forceful, it gets bruised. And it just takes a while for it to heal. So my body was taking care of itself by allowing me to sleep. Within an hour, I was out of the place, had x-rays, had a diagnosis, had a prescription in hand, and so I drove home and walked to the pharmacy that she recommended, which is near my house, and got the prescription filled. And here is the shocker. The price for the hospital bill, which I paid cash out of my own pocket because this is what it was, $65. $65! Can you imagine how much it would cost? I don't even know. I mean, a lot of us never know what the actual cost is because the insurance companies usually pay it or pay a large portion of it, but $65. And so then I went to get the prescription and I was interested to see what that was going to be. $4. $4 for the entire course of painkiller with muscle relaxer. So I am really impressed, once again, with the medical care system here. They are definitely not out to make huge gouging profits. And there really, for most medical care here, there really is no need to have insurance. But I want to tell you, having insurance was incredible peace of mind for me, and I highly recommend that you get medical insurance here in Mexico. Now, there is a lot of ins and outs with regard to medical insurance, and I am not going to go into that here. I link below to a really excellent interview on the Mexico Relocation Guide YouTube channel and also blog. And Mariana does an excellent job on all kinds of different topics, but she interviewed a local insurance broker here who talks about what the options are. But I ended up actually, because he's here at Lake Chapala, I contacted him after seeing that program, and it was before this incident. And his name is Edgardo Cedeno, and he's excellent, and he will go over what your situation is and find the best insurance program for you. But I ended up getting MetLife because I'm under 69 years old. I was able to get, there's a lot more options when you're under 69. And a lot of people complain about how expensive medical insurance is here, but I paid in US dollars $2,244 for an annual premium that covers me for virtually any kind of major medical hospitalization. And I do need to go to Guadalajara for treatment, but usually you would start at a local hospital and then get transferred. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, if this turns out to be a major concussion or something, that I would get transported for treatment to Guadalajara, which is fine because it's not very far. But I think that's an actually very reasonable premium. It covers so many different things. It covers minor dental. It also covers everything complete, start to finish, of your treatment, and it covers per incident. So if you have a concussion and it goes on for a number of years, that is one claim. And then if you go and you have some other problem that arises, you say you have a stroke or something unrelated to the concussion, or you fall and break your arm, that's a totally separate incident. So that is treated separately. And they will never cancel you, and you are allowed treatment for that particular claim basically indefinitely. And it's a really different system than the United States. So I highly urge you to watch that program on the Mexico Relocation Guide if you have questions about insurance, because it really is excellent, and I do think Edgardo is a really good insurance guy. I called him the morning after I fell, and I said, I know this isn't going to be a claim, at least not now, but what do? I didn't have a doctor. So I had called the doctor that he actually advised me to go to, and this is actually like the United States. I called and they said the soonest we can get you in is next Tuesday, and that was Friday. So I said, well, that's too long. I need to see somebody right away. So, but it was peace of mind knowing that I could call Edgardo and get help if I had anything really major happen and needed to make it and go to the hospital for a major issue. But it turned out it was very minor, just sort of outpatient treatment. One thing I wanted to talk about just a tiny bit is that the system here is not like it is in the United States. They don't have all of your records online. I imagine the hospital probably will have some record that I visited there, but they don't generally, I think, communicate with your family doctor. The insurance agent plays a much higher, more important role in coordinating your treatment than your GP would get involved. Unfortunately, I'm not established with one yet, but insurance agents here are really important in your treatment process. So also just in terms of keeping track of your own medical care, it's very much up to you. Dental care, medical care, you need to keep track of your own examinations that you've had, when you've had basic wellness exams, when you've had the required, I don't know, for me it would be like my female mammograms annual or whatever, and vaccinations, and you keep track of that yourself, and you stay on top of it, and you make the appointments for yourself. When you find it's you do it, because it's highly unlikely you're going to get anybody that's going to give you a call or send you an email or send a little postcard in the mail and say it's due. That's not the way it works here. You're very much responsible for your own care. So I want to talk just briefly about a couple of other little things. This one time I had a crown fall off, and that was back in August, a couple of months ago, and I didn't have a dentist yet. So I actually looked on Google Maps and typed in dentist and looked at the reviews, and there was one within a block of me walking distance, so that had excellent reviews. I made an appointment and walked over there, and I was so impressed. The place was clean and professional. They took me right in that. I think they took me that same afternoon. I mean, there was no wait, and they had a lab in-house that they took the crown over and had them all clean all the old cement and everything out of and made it all spick and span. And she glued that back on, and I was out of there quickly and painlessly, and she said, I'm going to have a new crown if it comes off again. But walking out the door with that, after all of that treatment, $45 US to have a crown glued back on and cleaned up and all that. So I was really impressed with that also. But once again, your cleanings, your maintenance, all of that stuff, it's going to be up to you to keep your own records and make sure that you take care of your own health and your own dental care. I'm going to have a separate program on veterinarians and pet care, and I don't have a lot of experience with that yet, but I did have one little incident where one of my kitties was not feeling very well, and I asked on a local Facebook group for recommendations of a good vet and got several people confirming that one of the local places was really good. So I called, and once again took me in within a couple of hours, fit me into the schedule, and I walked in and they did a blood panel because his kidneys have in the past not been very good, and that it was just tummy upset. It was some sort of intestinal problem, and actually his kidneys are back to being normal again after being on prescription diet. So once again, kind, gentle people took me in right away, did a complete test. The place was clean. And it was really cool because the vet was there and her kids were out of school and they were all hanging around in the vet's office, waiting for Mom to finish doing what she needed to do for the day. Just so caring. And she impressed on me that it is up to me to keep track of my pet's records and my pet's vaccination needs. And she goes, "You're not going to get any postcards or anything. She said, we do keep track of your visits here, but we don't have the personnel to be sending out reminders for you, so that is up to the owner." So just to wrap up, I wanted to say I am very impressed with all of the healthcare system here. It is full of really kind, concerned people that are not out to make a huge profit, and I will treat you with great care and concern, and they are there for you if you need them. The system is quite different than it is in the U.S., but it is absolutely, I'm very pleased with it. It's just a matter of learning a different way of doing things. So I hope you have a good rest of the week. Next week we'll be back to doing a little bit less serious topics, but I thought people would be interested in hearing what I had to go through. Talk to you later. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.